One of the most common pushbacks I get is that budgeting is restrictive. It's all about saying no. You can't do what you want. You can't spend money on fun things. But what if we flip the script around and say, instead of saying no to everything, budgeting is actually about giving yourself permission to say yes to the things that are actually important to you.
Gloria Steinem once said, "We will never solve the feminization of power until we solve the masculinity of wealth." Barbara Provost and Maggie Nielsen are the team at Purse Strings that will help you navigate the ins and outs of financial independence so that you can be financially fearless. This is Women in Money, the shit we don't talk about.
Let's get this party started. We are excited to have this podcast episode with Lindsey today. She is one of our Purse Strings approved professional. She runs 2 businesses and she also loves her cats. And that's what I know about Lindsey. So I'm going to let you do your formal introduction, Lindsey, before we dive into all the fun.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Maggie. Yes, so my name is Lindsey Ciarrocca. As Maggie said, I actually have 2 businesses. The first one is with my husband. We are both financial planners, that is Providers and Families Wealth Management, where we help our clients plan for their financial future. Whatever that great life looks like, we want to help them get there. And we want to be your lifelong partners to help you achieve your financial dreams. The second business I have is called the Exuberant Elephant, which is specifically for money and budget coaching. So I am a YNAB Certified Coach and a Certified Money Coach, and I actually found my way into financial services because a friend asked me to help her with her budget. And I just kept coming back to this budgeting piece. So long story short, I ended up starting a whole second business for it, and that is now where I help people take control of their finances on a day-to-day basis so they can figure out what's coming in, what's going out, and help them be intentional with their spending.
And so, why did you pick the name Exuberant Elephant? Every time I see it, I'm always like, I think I asked you this before.
Yes, there is a whole story to it, and there's a whole page on my website, so you'll have to go check it out, because I was working with a company to do the branding for my business, and I wasn't really wanting to use my own name for whatever reason. I wanted a name. As you mentioned, I like cats, and my favorite color is also purple, which you'll notice if you check out the website at all. So I had this thought about what about purple cat coaching? Just something super fun, super random. People would be like, oh, what is that? Conversation starter. Believe it or not, purple cat coaching is taken.
Wow.
I think it's the UK, at least there was 5 years ago. Somebody in the UK has purple cat coaching. As I was going through, part of the process that the branding company did was they interviewed people that I had already worked with. And one of my past clients, one of the quotes from her was, her exuberance about it made me want to learn more. And slight side story, my degree is actually in graphic design. So when I was in school, one of our projects was to create a company. And we had to build out our business cards and logos, letterhead, business cards, envelopes, all those sorts of things. And my company was the Exuberant Elephant. And it was a kids' clothing company. So just reading that word exuberant brought back the tie to my graphic design college days. And it was sort of like, oh, wouldn't that be cool to have that tie in? So I started thinking about it a little more, and I started doing some research into elephants. And elephants actually have a lot of symbolism for money as well. So I thought it was all just a perfect fit. It all just kind of fell into place that this was the original name I came up with in college. It's not the original branding. That's what I said. If you go onto the website, you can see the logo that I designed for that company, but brought it kind of all full circle. And I thought that was pretty cool.
I like that. For some reason I thought it was going to be about one bite at a time. That's the only way you eat an elephant. Because, money seems big to take on, but elephants are sweet still. Who knows,
Yeah, there's all kinds of layers to it. So that's why it is pretty cool too. Because you can talk about the elephant in the room, that, money is often mentioned as the elephant in the rooms. But then also just in other cultures, elephants and the symbolism with the money is pretty deep. So it's pretty cool.
I know you said before that you've hated math in school, and then you share with us you have a graphic design degree. So what happened in the middle where we decided that, we're going to teach women how to budget? And they kind of came to you, it sounded like. So you must have had some knack.
Yes. So that's kind of what it is. So like I said, I hated math in school. I remember crying over math homework in middle school because it was just I just don't understand it. Why do I have to solve for X and Y?
Oh, I hate that.
Oh my God, get me in there. I love it.
Oh, no. So by my senior year of high school, I had taken pretty much all my art classes. So I just was like, well, I guess I'm going into art school, and went in there, got a degree in graphic design. I took one math class my first semester freshman year of college, and it was math for the liberal arts major. And I was like, never touching math again. Fast forward probably 8-10 years. Got my degree in graphic design, was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I was working for a real estate photography company at the time, and a friend asked me to help her with her budget. To this day, I still don't even know why she decided to ask me. I think it might have been because maybe she just saw that I had bought a house and seemed like I was doing well. You never really know what their situation is on the inside, but to her, it seemed like I knew what I was doing. So she asked me to help her, and I said, sure, didn't even think twice about it. We sat down on a Friday night to look through her finances, and at the end of it, she was like, I'm so sorry to make you work on a Friday night. And I said, without even thinking, I was like, are you kidding? I love this stuff. I was like, oh, I should pay attention to this, right? Because like I said, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life at that point, 8 years after graduating college. So I did. I looked into it. I paid attention to it because, your old saying of you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So I was like, okay. But at that point, you think finances, you think financial advisor. So that's where my mind went to. And I started connecting with advisors on LinkedIn, asking to pick their brain about the industry, find out more. Pretty much one thing led to another. Everything just, again, clicked, fell into place. Everything felt right. From the time I met with my friend to the time I signed on with my original firm to start studying for my licenses was less than 2 months. Yep, this is it. Like, this feels right. I'm all about feelings. So I went into financial services, got fully licensed as a financial advisor doing investments, retirement planning. But again, people just kept gravitating to me for budgeting. And I just kept realizing like, oh, I really enjoy this. So I just kept doing it and decided that, there is so much power in having control of your budget and knowing your numbers. That was what I was really passionate about in the financial space.
I mean, that's an interesting story. And I love how you kind of followed what you love to do. And so having you from helping someone with their budget to being a financial advisor, and then now you are still an advisor, but you've certified money coach. Can you share a little bit of the difference of the advisor role versus the coaching role and like why one person might go to, that one hat versus the other hat?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, we've had people in both situations. For the advisor role, that is really people that pretty much have a good understanding of their day-to-day expenses, where their money goes, they're spending less than they're making, want to plan for their bigger goals. So buying a house, having kids, retirement is always the big one, obviously, for that piece of it. So those are the long-term planning aspects that we look at. For the coaching side, it is more of the day-to-day, every single day. Where are you spending your money? What is it going towards? The big question is, are you spending more than you're making? Because most people are when they first come to me. Like, it's a lot of hand-holding. I meet with my clients on a weekly basis to start with, and we really look into where's your money going, but also why do you spend the way you do? Or why do you think about money the way you do? How did you grow up with money? Because all of those deeper things are what's affecting how you're spending your money. So we can sit around all day long and I can say, oh, you shouldn't buy your lattes every day, or you shouldn't buy presents for people. But until you understand why you're doing those things, it has more of an impact. So we dive pretty deep on the coaching side.
It sounds like coaching therapy or money therapy.
It really is. And there is actually a financial therapy designation, which I've looked into many times, but never gotten. So yes, it is basically financial therapy. I just can't call myself a therapist because I'm not licensed.
Yeah, because so much of the reason why people kind of get themselves into trouble or whatever, first of all, it's because we weren't taught how to use money. That's a big part of it. And, no shame, no blame. And the other part is so much of our childhood experiences is woven into the fabric of how we think about money, our knee-jerk reactions to how we either spend or don't spend money, our emotions around money. And it's so innate that we just think it's normal.
You don't know any other way sometimes.
Yeah, you don't know any other way. And sometimes that, I think it roots its ugly head when you're in relationship with somebody else who thinks quite differently about it. And then you kind of come to heads on why, like you might have a spender with a saver, or you might just have things where people don't align and then they have to start thinking about unpacking, why do you think there's so much scarcity, or why do you think we get to spend this way, or whatever it might be. And then that's where they come to you, Lindsey, and you can start helping them unpack it and really realize what's going on.
Right. It's that awareness piece. And that's one thing that I say to my clients all the time. It's about becoming aware of what you're thinking, how you're feeling, how you grew up with it, right? Where did these things come from? Because again, yes, you're exactly right. These are habits you've built over decades and you don't even realize it. So the first thing is we're going to find them, become aware of them, so then we can start to change them.
And give ourselves that grace that it's not going to change overnight. It took 20 years to build. It's going to take maybe a year or two to knock down at least.
I say that all the time. You did not get here overnight. You will not get out of this overnight.
I wish we could.
Wish we could. Which is so hard because we're in such a instant gratification society.
Oh my God, yes.
We want to be out of it overnight, but it's just not going to happen.
But Instagram tells me I can be.
Well,
so I know a lot of people kind of avoid the whole budgeting aspect because it usually leads to this like old mentality of just being really restrictive. And so how do you kind of reframe that belief so it feels freeing and happy versus limiting?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is one of the most common pushbacks I get is that budgeting is restrictive. It's all about saying no. You can't do what you want. You can't spend money on fun things. But what if we flip the script around and say, instead of saying no to everything, budgeting is actually about giving yourself permission to say yes to the things that are actually important to you. So again, it comes back to that awareness piece. We start with looking at where you're spending your money and really doing a deep dive and saying, is this important to you? Or would you rather put it towards this other goal? So it's really all about the clarity that you can get when you start budgeting, because then you can be intentional with your finances.
Yeah. And it's like, hey, do you like when the lights go on when you flip that switch? Like when you think, oh, I have to pay all these utilities. Well, hot running water is really nice on a cold night when you want to take a hot shower. So how lucky are you that you can just step in there and take it? So you realize how lucky you are that you get to pay your utilities, right? And make choices like that for sure. That's great. And so talk about moving from reactive to proactive with money. So what does that shift actually look like in a day-to-day life?
So that's where I love the budgeting tool that I use with all of my clients, which is called YNAB. It stands for You Need a Budget. And it's basically a virtual envelope system. Our parents might have taken out an envelope and written groceries on it and put cash inside of it. It's a digital version of that. So you can only budget money that you have. But the key to that is it's a real-time system. So you can connect it to your accounts so it pulls in your transactions. So when you spend money on groceries, you can see in real time, oh, if I put $100 in there and I spent $25, I have $75 left. Because I always like to describe it as kind of like the old way of budgeting would be, I'd sit down on the first of the month and I would say, I expect to get paid $5,000 and here's how I think we'll spend it. Most of the time you put it away for 30 days, you forget about it, you come back at the end of the month and say, okay, how'd I do? At that point, you can't change anything. So YNAB is meant to be a system that you use on a regular basis so you can see, do I have money in this category or not? And that's one of the keys to being successful with it is finding the money before you spend it.
So it's kind of like if you only have $75 in that envelope, even though it's virtual, and you're at the grocery store and you spend $82, you got to find $7 more somewhere.
Exactly. So it's, again, going back to being intentional with where can I move $7 from? Or am I not going to spend $7 because this other thing is more important and I'd rather keep the money there?
You're very, very close to watching your money every single day then.
And in the beginning, some people have to be. Like my husband and I were there. There were times years ago where we would be in the grocery store. He would have his phone out, adding prices up, and we're making decisions on whether or not we should be buying these things. Like, what is our total going to be?
And so, like, what if it's the 14th, you get paid the 15th, you're going to the grocery, and so, like, more money's hitting tomorrow. Do you, like, restrict yourself then? Do you know what I mean? Like, that kind of, like, cusp situation where you're like, I just need to get groceries for the week. I'm getting paid tomorrow. It's all going to wash out.
Kind of depends on the situation. So in the beginning, you might have to be like, well, I have to buy groceries. I have to put it on a credit card. I know I'm getting paid tomorrow. I'll fill the category up tomorrow. In an ideal situation, your paycheck that you're getting tomorrow is funding next month.
Oh.
So you're not even worried about what's coming up in the next week, the next 2 weeks. you're what they call in the YNAB world, you're a month ahead. So you've broken that paycheck to paycheck cycle.
I like that.
That makes sense. I'm kind of interested of like, you became a YNAB coach and you say it's kind of confusing to learn. And so I feel like some people with an app, and if you're like, it's confusing to learn, someone needs to coach me on an app. Like that sounds like a lot. Like an app should be intuitive. So like, why is there so much coaching needed around it? And I feel part of it is like this whole mental game that we have with money. But like, can you give some more insight in there?
Yes. So like I said, it was confusing for me when I first started. I heard about YNAB for the first time in 2017, I think. 2 people told me about it in the same day, and I was like, wait a minute, how have I never heard of this software? So of course I'm going to go deep diving into this. And the biggest thing is changing how you think about budgeting. It's a zero-based budgeting system, which to most people may not mean anything, but it's really goes back to that. You can only budget the money you have. So if you have $2,000 in your checking account, or if you have $200 in your checking account, that's all you have to work with. Whereas going back to that old school budgeting, oh, I'm going to get $5,000 this month, so I'm going to just budget it all. Budget it all. Actually just made a video on this, like the most common mistake I see people doing. So it's just shifting the way you're thinking about budgeting from that first of the month doing everything and then putting it away to this real-time system we're interacting with on a daily basis.
Yeah, that first month system never would work, especially because it's like, I forget that someone's birthday's on the 22nd, or I didn't know I wanted to go out to dinner on the 27th. Like, I didn't know Billy was coming to town. Like, who knows? Like, I was always like, how am I supposed to predict what I'm going to do this month? I mean, I know vaguely, but not like per the dime. And so it was always very confusing and not very successful in that way.
That's where you can start to flip the script with YNAB, because you know you're going to go out to eat someday. You know you're going to have friends come. You know you're going to travel. You know you're going to have car repair bills and medical expenses and vet bills. So you start putting money into all those buckets. Maybe it's not right away. Again, maybe you don't have that luxury right in the first couple months that you're using it, but over time, that key piece being, if you're spending less than you're bringing in, so let's say you're spending $3,500 a month and you're bringing in $4,000. So you're always going to have a little bit more to start to build in those categories. So the travel one, it just sits there for maybe 3 months until you do travel. And then you have a pot of money to pull from.
I've been listening to you for a while now on our money talks, on our different sessions. So I did make an account just for my car. And so I was like putting $50 a month in there. And I was like, I know it's not going to cover everything, but I went to go get my oil change and everything else. And it was so great just taking that out of that bucket and like still having all my extra money left over because it wasn't like a huge dent. Now, they did give me $6,000 more of work that they thought I should get done in the near future. So I might need to up that. But like for the tire rotation and the oil change, I was like, look at me. Look at me.
That is called a YNAB win. You have the money waiting for a job. Like, does anyone want to pay money for their tires to be rotated? No, but you have the money sitting there.
And every time I'm like shocked how much it costs. Like, even though I know every 6 months we're going to be in there, we're going to do the thing, you know? And so I was like, even if there's more in this account, I know they're going to want it sometime. So, I mean, and that's like with vet bills too. Like, I can't tell you when, but I know you're giving me that face for listeners who are just listening and not watching.
I think we've had this conversation about how much I've spent on vet bills this year.
And it's like, you don't know when it's going to come, but you know it's going to come.
I will quote my dad here. He always told me, everything in your life needs maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And that was always a thing. And it's like, okay, so, and that maintenance is going to cost money, whether it's pets, cars, your own body, your house, any of those things. So yeah, they're going to happen.
But let me ask you this. So maintenance, so you wouldn't have a maintenance account. You would have a maintenance for your house, a maintenance for your car, a maintenance for your pets in YNAB?
It depends. I have all of those and more, obviously. But how much work makes sense for you? I have some clients who, I don't care what it is. If it's travel related, it's just the travel category. For me, I break it down into, well, what's accommodation? What was transportation? What was food? What was dining out? What was groceries? Like, I get a little obsessive with it. But you can also work up to that point. So maybe you don't have all these categories to start with because that's overwhelming and you don't have all the money to put in it. But over time, you can add a category and start adding your $25, $50 to it a month. Because, yep, that'll be something when that expense comes up.
Are these just categories in the app, or are these actual bank accounts with all these different.
They're just categories in the app.
Okay.
So that is the beauty of it, is that you don't need multiple bank accounts.
Okay.
And it's actually more confusing if you do have multiple bank accounts, because YNAB doesn't care where the money is. Let's say if you have 2 checking accounts and you have $1,000 in one and $3,000 in one, and maybe your rent is coming out and it's $1,800. If you look at your categories, you have $1,800. But if it's coming from the account that only has $1,000 in it, you will likely overdraw that account. Does that make sense? So in the YNAB world, it's easier to have everything in just one checking account.
And so do you recommend like those longer, I'm going to quote, like longer term accounts, like the pet fund and the car fund, all kind of hold in a high yield savings account? And that way they earn some interest and it's not like your normal day-to-day checking account?
Yes, because I was going to say, all that being said, caveat to say that as you start to use the system, you're going to build up money in your checking account. And all of a sudden you have a few $1,000s and it's earning nothing. So over the last couple of years, as interest rates have gone up, yes, I have a high yield savings account. It's just one bucket for all of the other categories. So in our checking account, I just keep, a few thousand, but the high yield is sitting there with thousands of dollars in it, just making money. But I can see exactly what it's all earmarked for in YNAB.
And then my last question on this before we move to the next question is, are you building an emergency fund on top of this? Because I feel like a lot of these things are kind of like your emergency fund for the pet, your emergency fund for the car, your emergency fund for the house. And so are you building an emergency fund on top of that? And how the heck are you saving that much money?
So that is a highly debated question in the YNAB world. And you're exactly right, that in the sense that if you're saving for all these other things, you don't need an emergency fund.
Because that is your emergency fund.
That is your emergency fund. That being said, I do have a separate emergency fund because my husband and I are both self-employed. It's more of a paycheck fund. If something were to happen and we couldn't pay ourselves this month, it's going in there. Or in the case that just happened recently, we had $3,000 in the vet bill, but we spent $3,900. So I took that $900 from our emergency fund.
And I appreciate you kind of being honest of like, those envelopes are not always as full as they need to be. I mean, those pet bills, you never know. You could have $3,000 and one day they need 10. You just never know.
We could have a whole episode about the money we've spent on a cat this year and how our fund has gone up and down. Like, I wrote an email on it, I think maybe in like February or March, where I was like, I started the year with $1,200 in vet bill funds and we're at about 50 now. And it's been more since then, so.
Wow.
But the win being, I only took $900 from our emergency fund.
Yeah. You're
It's an
prepared.
emergency.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so many women who are listening are juggling family, maybe businesses, caretaking, and, everything in between. So what's a simple budgeting habit that can help them make money decisions with less stress and more clarity?
So the very first thing that I have all of my clients do has nothing to do with numbers or money. It's about finding your motivation, finding your financial why, or a goal that is more important to you than the discomfort of budgeting or looking at your debt numbers. So I always tell them, like, find something that really resonates with you, that like punches you in the gut and you're like, that's why I'm doing this, because that goal is more important than all of these other things.
What do some people say?
So the one client that came to top of my security, peace, and joy, that is hers. Yeah, some of it's just financial freedom, not having to worry about, can I pay for groceries this week? Ours right now is a property in New Mexico. So my husband and I went to New Mexico a couple months ago and both totally fell in love. And we were joking around like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to like buy a property out here? And then we were there for a couple of days and we're like, but actually, like, what would we need to do to make this happen?
Get out the YNAB.
So while we were there, I put a category in our budget for a New Mexico property. And just the other day, my husband's a runner. So he had wanted a new pair of running shoes. And he was running some errands and he was going out and he came back and he was like, I decided not to buy the shoes. And I was like, why not? He's like, well, I was looking at the category and I saw I didn't have enough money in my running shoe category, because yes, he has a running shoe category. And I was thinking about a New Mexico property. I was just like, I'm so proud of you.
You're thinking about us.
So it just made the decisions easy, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely your driver of what gets you every day, right? And so that's awesome. I love that. And we can't wait to come visit you in New Mexico.
Wonderful. I think this has been really interesting. I'm glad we dug into the YNAB because I know it's such a unique way to budget, and you're the pro to ask and dig into it. So I've learned a lot already from it. So super cool. And what I love the most, I think, is it really keeps you financially conscious and focused on your specific goals. I mean, on a day-to-day basis, which I love because so often we get kind of, yeah, I have this goal. And then when paycheck time comes, you kind of flub it a little bit or ebb and flow. But really with what you're doing, like your husband did, you look daily on what's the best way to really focus on our funds, our limited funds that come in. How am I making the best decisions for what we want to do for our families, for our goals, short and long term? You're really making conscious decisions, and I love it.
I've heard it said that the numbers around money are not emotional. The numbers are data. They give you information. So looking at the numbers and saying, I don't have enough for my shoes that I want, is helping you make those informed decisions.
I'm glad we're kind of doing this closer to the end of the year. So like people could, maybe download the app and kind of start like a new year with the app and give it a try, at least for a year. Because these things, they do take a second to implement. They're not going to have magic in a month. I mean, you might, but it takes a while to get into the routine.
The other thing I tell clients too, like kind of how you mentioned before, like how do I know what I'm going to do this month or next month? Like it really does take a full year to see what you really spend money on, because there's always that Costco membership that comes up that you forgot about, or that auto insurance renewal. So it's okay to add those to your budget as you go, because it's a living, breathing thing that's flexible and not rigid and restrictive.
Yeah, if you could remember everything that you were going to pay throughout the year, damn, that's impressive.
Well, yeah, within the whole year, then the next year, everything's been accounted for the most part, right? You are strengthening that muscle, right, over a whole year and getting into that routine, which is really super cool.
Or maybe once you realize you paid off your phone, you start putting that extra into a new phone fund, because that will come up again. You're going to get a new phone, right? Does it need to be the newest, latest, greatest, most expensive one? No.
Maybe.
Yes.
It depends. If that's your priority, maybe.
The apple does not fall far from the tree. No, no, Lindsey, this has been a great conversation. And so I know you do coaching with people if they want, more information on how to do YNAB, but you also do some videos on YouTube as well, so people can get some tips to get started.
Yep. I have recently started a YouTube channel so that I can do some YNAB videos because, like I said, it's a little confusing to set up, but if you have somebody walking you through it, it's so much easier. So I have a YouTube channel. I have a podcast that I've started for myself as well. And then everything I do is on my website as well. And there's tons of free resources that you can find there to get you started.
We'll have all that in the show notes. But before we close out, we have to ask you, Lindsey, what is your own definition of financial freedom?
Well, financial freedom, or as I like to call it, financial exuberance, it's really a place where you are using money as a tool. It's not a burden on your shoulders. It's a tool that helps you live your greatest life. Maybe that's a space where you can build a business, donate to causes that you're passionate about. But really, most importantly to me, I want to create a ripple effect around the world, because money in the hands of women can have powerful impacts, not only in our own community, but beyond. So I want to get women to that place so that they can be impacting the greater good.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
Yeah. Amen, sister.
And have you ever pet an elephant?
I've actually been to Africa and was on an African safari, but did not see an elephant.
Maybe we got to get Africa back on the list, or just the local zoo. This has been great. Thank you so much, Lindsey, for coming on, sharing your expertise. Check out her podcast and all her good information in the show notes. And until next time, be financially fearless. You've been listening to Women in Money, the shit we don't talk about. Now it's time to take what you've learned and make bold moves towards financial independence. Stay in the know by joining our newsletter for exclusive tools, resources, and updates that keep you financially fearless. Head to pursestrings.co and sign up today. Need a financial professional who gets it? Turn to Purse Strings' curated directory, your go-to resource for financial experts who know how to put you first. Love this episode? Leave us a review and help us empower even more women to own their financial power. Until next time, be financially fearless.